That does not rhyme.
That doesn't rhyme.
My name is not Guldborg. I'm not the wrestler.
Oh, that would be funny, though.
That would be funny, but I really don't have the character build for it.
With a steel chair. Don't let this distract you, though.
From
that 20 years ago, Mankind threw Undertake off a 20-foot steel cage in the Hell in a Cell match.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I didn't know that.
Have you not heard it's a wrestling copy pasta?
No,
Have you not heard that one
I'm
before?
not really into wrestling.
It's a great copy pasta. Anyway, starting off the day, it's Excel versus Astralis, an incredibly intense game. It's like cows in a plane. The stakes have never been higher for these two teams. Let's jump on right into the draft. I will just quickly, before we get right into the action, talk about how Excel really need to start picking up some wins. Currently sitting 6-6, and although you might be like, well, they're on their way to a 9-9 scoreline, you have to remember their final week of the LEC. Week 8 includes matches against Fnatic, Rogue, and G2. A very difficult end of their schedule, so if they can pick up wins over the next 3, they can get themselves to that 9-win scoreline.
Especially because, as you're saying yourself, they're facing the one who's currently ahead of them right now, so you cannot drop games to the like of Astralis who's below you, because they might just turn into your biggest competition, especially taking a look at Astralis, who's been having a round of almost a Kingslayer vibe to them, taking away the top end of the schedule.
It's a very difficult game for both these teams. Excel, of course, losing yesterday, but still on a good run of form overall. Hecarim, Jhin banned away, Zeri and Caitlyn removed by Astralis.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of power picks open and available here. The likes of Jace, the likes of the Gwen that we've seen so many times already. We talk about the junglers as well, and Zhao, also one of the ones that take a huge priority. We've seen Markoon and that champion loads of times. So Astralis last ban, so far they're very bot side focused, and I do agree with that sentiment. It has seemed like lately that Astralis has found the victories down there, but they won't let Nukeduck get his LeBlanc that he also played yesterday.
And Excel will immediately lock in that Jinx. We've seen it rise to a blue side first pick across the course of 12-3, across the course of this weekend. No real surprises there. Does mean Aphelios Thresh is open for Astralis, alongside that Ryze that has also been first pick worthy so far in the LEC.
It's going to be very interesting, because I do like the respect ban of Jarvan as well from Excel, because they've had a lot of success with these dive comps instead, where Dajor has been on the Vex as well. But now this time around, we're going to be seeing a different kind of Astralis that's going to be more about kiting back, at least with the Ryze and the Aphelios, who can be kind of short-range champions.
Right now, Astralis do have 2 strong picks, as you say, but short range can be difficult to navigate teamfights, especially if Excel look for something like the Zhao, where you really can't get damage onto him unless you are right up in his face, alongside the Jinx with that long range. Excel already starting off a relatively strong comp of their own.
And it's going to be interesting to see what they then prioritize. Is it a strong pick for Nukeduck into the Ryze already here on the 3rd pick, or is it trying to get that Thresh for Mikyx to help out Patrik down and facilitate this high DPS carry that you have in the back line?
And it really starts to show where Excel want to put their eggs. What basket are they looking in? Is it bot lane? If it is, maybe pick something like the Thresh to avoid that safety for the Astralis bot lane. And that looks to be where they are going right now. Mikyx will play his first Thresh of Spring. Advian had brought it out once before for Excel. Since that substitution has been made, we haven't seen Thresh on the side of Excel. Astralis, though, will answer with a Nautilus, a good hooker into that Thresh.
It is. It's the battle of the hookers down there in the bottom side, at least from the 2 support players. But it's an interesting dynamic, because quite often in some of the other leagues, or even just in the RLs, you will try and see them kind of fight this bot side with an enchanter instead, especially with Aphelios. But something that Astralis has had huge success with lately is promisq on a facilitator. We've seen what he can do on the Galio. We also love that they have this ease of execution, especially from the lower end teams who sometimes struggle with a harder to execute playstyle that is not just about team fighting. So picking up the Nautilus here is just fine.
So far we see Astralis playing short range, allow the enemy team to come towards us and then fight them as they push into us. We see Excel with a bit more range, a bit more pick potential with that Thresh. The question is, where will the second stage of this draft go? junglers banned out by Excel, mid laners so far by Astralis.
Yeah, so jungle, all in all, just a great pickup or takeaway from Zanzarah. It also does fairly well into the likes of Zanzarah, something we've also seen Zanzarah on Hasman, the Viego. I quite like Zanzarah on these facilitating champions as well, so I wouldn't mind seeing him on the likes of a Volibear, something that's not too hard to pilot, but that allows you to play for the bot side, which is something we've seen them have success with. And Astralis does have that luxury that they can just fourth pick their jungler, they can save that last pick for WhiteKnight, and make sure they have a favorable position for their top laner.
So far though, Jace still worked his way all the way through picks and bans, and both Finn and WhiteKnight very comfortable on that champion. And you don't really need too much pressure on the top side to allow Jace to work. Astralis have banned out the Twisted Fate and the Victor, both mages in the mid lane. Jace now removed by Excel. Perhaps wondering if it would be a jungle final pick for Astralis, meaning that Jace now cannot be locked in. Astralis, though, will probably go towards their jungle with that Jace being removed and allow, as you say, WhiteKnight the option to counter-pick top to round us out. Viego is the pick, one of Zanzarah's most played. He's got 3 champions with 3 games now. Viego will make it to 4.
Another champion that has made it through the draft phase so far has been the Gwen. Another champion that could come out from the side of Finn would be the Gangplank. Once again, fairly short range right now on the Astralis composition, so forcing them to walk into you, it's great for the Gwen, it's great for the Gangplank. So I think Excel there has some good options ahead of themselves right here. And just in general, a lot of S-tier picks. I think Veigar as well from Nukeduck in this instance. Not only is it comfort for him, something we've already seen him on before, but it's great into the champions you see currently from Astralis. It's going to be very difficult for a Ryze and for an Aphelios to fight their way around the baby cage.
And last time these two teams met as well, Nukeduck did pilot that Veigar, went 4-0-1 on it, and a very strong game. And it looks like it's going to be WhiteKnight's Graves in the top lane. Now, Graves is a pick that can have a lot of pressure, that can, in the end, dominate a side lane, especially with the Hullbreaker build that we're seeing. But this matchup between Graves and Gwen, we've seen it go both ways over the last few weeks.
We have. Most of the time, we see Graves gain control of the first 2 waves and kind of dictate that point, but there does come a point in the game where suddenly Gwen starts taking over the game when she's got that Riftmaker for herself, and she just takes control of the side lanes. All in all, I would say Astralis, they're kind of on a counter or a clock going into this matchup, because they're getting outranged by a lot of the champions of Excel. Even when they get into that short range, you got Gwen who's going to be immune in the W. You got this in Zhao with the Crescent Strike as well. And if you fall behind to Excel and they get to be first on the objective, you're going to be face-checking a baby cage. You're going to be face-checking the Thresh hook. I think Excel, they have a very comfortable draft ahead of them here.
Astralis have played very well in the early game across the last couple of weeks, though, getting advantages through Zanzarah and promisq teaming up, through Dajor moving out of the mid lane and affecting other lanes. And what better champion to do that on than the Ryze? The Realm Warp can give you so much pressure in a side lane.
Because I will say that has been the style of Astralis. It's not always that they're finding the correct macro call to get leads. It's actually quite scrappy. They find small skirmishes either through the scuttles or through some camp invades. And when you have the likes of a Nautilus, when you have the likes of a Ryze who can join the fight with a Realm Warp, it does allow you some extra agency to try and pile down on a member that's isolated. And that is going to be the key. The vision control, finding a member isolated, gating a gold lead, try and see if you can pick up the earlier objectives. The early Drake stackings are pivotal for Astralis as well.
All about the early game for Astralis. Excel scale relatively well. They have strong picks as the game goes later. We'll see who takes the win home in our first game of day 2 here. Excel versus Astralis. Let's get on into it. Astralis sitting near the bottom of the table, 2-10 right now. Excel much higher than they have been in the past, 6 and 6, although we have seen them falter from this sort of position before. And I know on the analyst desk they talked a bit about the Astralis miracle run. I know, Guldborg, you're not the biggest fan of calling it a miracle run. You have something a little bit closer to home.
Exactly. So, are you familiar with the author, Hans Christian Andersen?
Yes, I am.
Okay, if you're not familiar with it outside at home, he is a very famous Danish fairy tale author. Did write The Ugly Duckling. And I gotta say, you know, Astralis starting out, I mean, really ugly gameplay all in total, right? True. They're really not finding their footing. But now, slowly but surely, they're kind of realizing who they are. They're kind of turning into this kind of Danish swarm we're looking at from the side of the organization. So to me, it's not a miracle run. That was Schalke. No, Astralis, if they make it work, that's a fairy tale run right there.
It's the fairy tale story for Astralis.
And they lived happily ever after.
We'll see if they live after this game. I've seen Astralis die many times.
Because you brought it up earlier. I was actually prepared for using this later if it did go well for them. Nope. I took a look at the Astralis draft here. I'm like, this is a little bit difficult.
You gotta stand by your guns here,
if you don't work well with the early priority. So maybe we've set this fairy tale run out a little too soon, but we'll see. Astralis will be the one to dictate that.
It would definitely be a fairy tale story for them after going 0-9. Able to pick up 1 win against Rogue at the start of the second round robin. Since then, they claimed another scalp yesterday as they took down Fnatic, but they have got a long way to go if they're going to make it into playoffs. So they would actually need things to play into their hands as well, because, of course, they can only get to 8 wins in total. We are, of course, into the last third of the LEC Spring season here.
So let's talk about the priority lanes we have currently, because in the mid lane for Astralis, they are with the Ryze matchup into the Veigar. Just because you get to stack your E with a fairly low ability haste on it does mean that you get to push in the Veigar, who's going to take some time farming up the minions, getting that AP stacked as well. So that means for Astralis in the early game, you will have the first move from Dajor, which obviously gives you some options. But down towards the bot side instead, Excel, they've been the one with the early priority from the bot side. You can already see them making use of this. They got a deep ward onto Astralis blue buff, knowing that Zanzarah is now pathing topside, and Mikyx, he's out applying pressure. Not necessarily gaining anything out of it yet, but it's the fact he can do it. There's no reason for him to just stand down in the bot side. It's a slow push coming into Patrik anyway, and he's not going to be missing much, as you can see momentarily.
The big thing there, as you see, he didn't actually miss out on any of those minions, as you say, but Zanzarah and Dajor coming up. The minion's not in range of the tower. TP available for Nukeduck if he wants to join this. Finn puts the Hallow Mist down, but it expires. And as does he. First blood of the game to Zanzarah.
And it's great from Astralis, because we said they need to get ahead early with a composition like this. They have early priority in the early game with the first 3 waves, with the Ryze into the Veigar matchup, and they make great use of it. Zanzarah, you need to be careful though, because you do not have members around you.
Yeah, Zanzarah has the flash, but Q3 is going to get the knock-up. Nukeduck looking for this, hasn't put down the cage yet, still finds him. Flash follow from Markoon is enough to transfer those double buffs across to him, and he'll take away this red buff as well.
Honestly, quite greedy from Zanzarah. Markoon was pathing down towards the bot side, so I think Zanzarah was expecting him to be down towards the bot side. Scuttle instead. Markoon, though, he adapted to jungle pathing with the members of Astralis moving up first. Gets together with Veigar.
Markoon should be able to escape this one.
Yeah,
Dajor is on his way. But I don't think Dajor gets there in time. Markoon can just run to the wave. Wind becomes lightning, will give him a dash as well towards one of those minions. As you say, Dajor has flash, but he can just use the audacious charge to the safety underneath this tower.
But it is Zanzarah getting 3 buffed here then, in the fact that his red buff was just stolen away. So it is going to slow the momentum down a little bit. But remember, Astralis, they still get priority from the mid lane, from Dajor, and he's going to be the catalyst in this composition. It's about pushing Nukeduck in, make the move while Nukeduck can't do much, and then just trying to apply pressure to your enemy. Now, Nukeduck on the other side, on the Veigar, he is going to find a lot of efficiency later on outside of lane. In lane, unfortunately, not so much unless you can force Dajor's flash and then 2v2 up with Markoon on the Zhao.
It's something Dale's been doing relatively well across the last couple of weeks, is roaming around and teaming up with his jungler. You can see he does tend to fall behind in terms of CS in the laning phase, but high kills and assists at the 14-minute mark and middling jungle proximity. But so far this game, he continues to show us how effective he can be at moving around on the map. He does sacrifice a little bit in the mid lane to do so, but because of it, Kobbe and promisq should be able to secure this first plate in the bottom lane.
I don't actually think he's sacrificing much. If we can hover into the mid lane real quick to see how many waves or how many minions he's actually losing. Yeah, not too much, but Markoon's around. You may be forced to force the flash here.
Yeah, Dajor does have the flash, will get away from the event horizon. Did have to sacrifice a summoner and lost 3 minions, 4 minions out of it. Just some smart play from Markoon so far to catch Astralis as they're coming back from trying to make a play of their own.
Exactly. Markoon was on the top side. He was just clearing out the wolves, hovering Nukeduck as Nukeduck is pushing in the waves. Dajor came from a greedy pathing, and thus the flash has then been birthed. This is what you can look for now on Excel. The fact that Dajor has no longer got that flash, that safety, if he's pushing in the waves, means you got a point of attack from the side of Excel to punish.
We've already seen Mikyx roaming up towards that mid lane at level 2. He's pathing through this bottom side jungle once again. Sweeper available to him. This ward will spot Markoon, so Astralis know at least one member of Excel is down towards this bottom side, but Mikyx working his way through the lane. Might even be, setting up a lantern, pulls Markoon across, and playing towards the top side. Markoon should be okay for the moment. promisq catches the wave. Should be able to hold this one for Dajor to come and only miss one of those minions.
Yeah, but they're getting deep vision here. Once again, intel and tracking on Zanzarah is pivotal, especially if you can shut down the early jungle pressure from Zanzarah. You pretty much shut down the wheel that kind of pivots Astralis forward, especially if he can't move up. Oh no, the vision control is good here, but they start off the Raptors just when Zanzarah is coming around.
But that control wall behind Excel actually might have spotted them in the pixel bush. Mikyx's going to flash forward, lands to play. Dajor underneath the tower, the root coming out as well, and Dajor will fall across the wall. Zanzarah can't join the fight. Excel fight 2 in the mid lane.
Great movement there from Excel, and they keep the early pressure up, trying to continue with the jungle pressure a little bit, steal away a few Raptors, but all in all, 2 kills going in the favor of Excel, shutting down Astralis momentum immediately. A great sight for them.
You see what Astralis were trying to do. They thought they had good positioning. Kobbe here trading with Patrik. Flame Chompers get the root. Mikyx with the hook cleansed away. Kobbe able to dodge out that hook by cleansing the root from those chompers.
It's a heal for a cleanse, and Sauer, he is around, and he's actually not currently spotted on vision, as you're saying, so this might get real hairy from the side of Excel. Does he have the lantern up?
No flash. Patrik has a flash of his own. Zanzarah looking for the damage. The hook's going to pull him under the tower.
Oh,
it's
no.
too greedy.
Oh no.
It's too greedy. Patrik gets excited, will back away, just takes the 1 kill, gifted to him on a silver platter.
And an early game that may have started as a fairy tale from Astralis has now turned into a horror movie instead. It's not going great for them here. You get to push in the bot side, but once again, it's Excel running away with the better end of that stick.
But you can see what Astralis are trying to do. You mentioned it in draft, Guldborg. You said they need to be proactive. They have to play around their priority in the early game, get ahead, and they keep trying to make these plays. They keep trying to counter gank. They keep trying to find plays on the bottom side. It's just not quite working for them. Kobbe does have a CS lead, will have 2.5, almost 3 plates picked up there. So he is in an okay position, but the rest of the map is really bleeding for Astralis.
Yes, so currently right now, Excel is investing resources to get the Herald on the top side of the map, so they've left Patrik by his lonesome. Astralis could be able to punish this.
Flash hook connects, Chompers come down, but there's no way for Patrik to get out of that one. Astralis able to collapse on the bottom side because Mikyx was not there to shield his AD carry.
And if there's one thing I do like seeing, at least, despite Excel picking up the Herald, it's the fact that we are not having a team who's just walking up to the Herald only to lose the fight. Astralis kind of realized we don't have the priority around this Herald, we can't really fight for it, we don't have to summon a spell on a mid lane either, let's just try and attack the weak side right now, which is Patrik left on his lonesome. So they are cross-mapping this, and they are remaining competitive, but the gold lead is pretty much identical between the two teams.
As you say, pretty even, coming up to the 9-minute mark here. Astralis have been the ones trying to make more proactive plays. I'd say Excel have been able to answer, had that good play up towards the red buff for Astralis as well. For the moment, though, Excel will be pretty happy with the state of affairs. They are scaling. Obviously, we're only 9 minutes into the game, so they're nowhere near those full power points on the Jinx or the Veigar, but for them, they're very comfortable just trading 1 for 1 here and there and getting themselves a little bit of extra gold.
Exactly, and if Astralis can't suddenly force these tricks as well either, Excel won't feel the need to be put on the clock either, because if you can put this soul win condition in the back of Excel's head, maybe you're tempting them to overstep and make some mistakes in the fog of war if you have better vision around it. But this time around now, Nukeduck has been the one with priority. Dajor, though, he has just been gifted a blue buff, which should allow him to keep the wave shoved in, at least from the mid lane point of view. But Markoon, he stays relentless. The early tracking on Zanzarah, the fact they know he was bot side, allows Markoon to start trimming away on the top side jungle camps instead.
Should be able to work his way up towards the top lane here. Still has that Rift Herald as well. May even look to put that gold in Finn's pocket if he can. WhiteKnight is forced back a little bit. Fleet footwork will heal him up. Just a moment, puts the end of the line down. There's a big minion wave here, and you can see Excel looking to make a play. Meanwhile, Astralis moving towards the bottom side. Realm Warp's coming in. Mikyx hooked. No minion wave here yet for Kobbe. Minion rooted underneath the tower top side. WhiteKnight's getting dived. 1 kill already across. Kobbe now roots up 1. The Moonlight Vigil coming out as well. Patrik has nowhere to go. On the top side, WhiteKnight did fall. 2 kills though, going over to Zanzarah there for Astralis.
Yeah, and honestly, Astralis, they're finding the better cross maps in this instance because yes, a Herald will get deployed on top side, but Astralis picked up the first turret, Astralis picked up 2 kills, and I think Zanzarah, having the intel that Markoon is taking the top side turret, should be able to solo the Drake. So, neutral objective going in the favor of Astralis as well. It's a good systematic round of plays coming out from Astralis.
It's one of those games where things can look quite chaotic because a lot of stuff is happening on the map, but you have to always evaluate a play by what you're giving up and what you're gaining out of it. There we saw Excel, 2 players on this bottom side, Astralis willing to give up top side. They knew that it was very likely that WhiteKnight would die, but by making this play, you get 2 kills and you get first tower with that plate to boot.
But it is kind of also Patrik and Mikyx refusing to acknowledge that they are on the weaker end of the map state right now. And the same goes for WhiteKnight up towards the top side. As soon as you are using a lot of your resources on one side of the map, the other side of the map has to take a step back, just acknowledge, hey, we need to just lose this wave. Because you're going to die under the turret anyway. You're going to lose the wave either way.
And we see that's what WhiteKnight's doing here. He says, okay, I know I'm on the weak side of the map. Markoon, Finn here, alongside Patrik and Mikyx. This will be more plates going over to XL. But on the other side of the map, Kobbe is going to have some free time with that top lane tower, and he doesn't split the gold from those plates either. Zanzarah and WhiteKnight staying around just a little bit here. You can see promisq working his way down. TP is going to come out as Finn looks to get up towards the top side to stop Kobbe on his push. But Kobbe got 3 plates out of this tower, all for himself. That means that's 640 extra gold in his pocket, whereas Patrik, yes, you got 3 plates on the bottom side, but you split that with Finn for a while. Dajor's going to get jumped on. Zanzarah looking for the chase. Baby Cage comes down. Heartbreaker goes through it, but Zanzarah, that's a primordial burst if I've ever seen one. Nukeduck just nukes Zanzarah.
Yeah, in a 2 versus 3 situation, that Cage is just holding promisq outside of the fight. Even if he connects for the hook, well, he's just going to get stunned up by the Cage as he dashes through it. So Zanzarah just gets blown up by Nukeduck in that low skirmish. Let's take a look at it again, because initially it's actually looking good from the side of Astralis. They're the one pincering down to Markoon, but the hooks doesn't connect, and I mean, the damage is just absurd.
Mega Death Rocket coming in a little bit too late, but the damage, as you say, pure 100-0 burst through the Crescent Guard and that primordial burst from Veigar. If you don't know what Veigar does, puts down a cage, stuns people, stacks up his passive whenever he kills a minion with one of his spells. Whenever he hits an enemy champion, he gets AP for the rest of the game. One of the few infinitely scaling champions in League. And alongside that, his ult is a huge nuke that does percentage missing health damage to boots. So the lower an enemy is, the more damage it is going to do to them. And that's why we saw Zanzarah go from about 600 health or so to nothing in the blink of an eye.
Good reads from Excel this time around with the allocation of their resources. They're having their members up towards where Astralis are having them, so they can't really punish on the last platings together with Kobbe here. But I wonder if he feels like going up for it now that they have reset. They don't have the intel. You can see River right now. 2 ping wards coming out from the side of Excel. That is intel Astralis doesn't have. That is information they need to gain. And therefore, they're now moving into the river to try and get some more information back on the map on their side.
And once again, it's promisq and Zanzarah teaming up, trying to get this vision denial. Mikyx here to shadow Nukeduck. That lantern can do a lot of work in a fight like this. The hook just a little bit short, but I do want to just highlight that battle that we are seeing between the supports. Mikyx has been a little bit more focused around being near Patrik through this game. It's what he doesn't usually do. Usually he's roaming around the map, but promisq and Zanzarah, you see that jungle proximity, 26.2%. That's very high for a support early on in the game. They are teaming up a lot over the last few weeks to try and make things happen for Astralis in the early game.
Yeah, and it was actually something we didn't see all too much of in the beginning, but more like an adaptation they made. Astralis came out, talked about some of their issues as well after that horrible start to the LEC Spring Split. A lot of it honestly came down to that they didn't really have the same trust in each other. When players were being committed to, they were on different pages. So they sat down, they had a talk, they completely reset the infrastructure of how the team should function and just tried to blindly trust each other more. And honestly, after having sat down with that conversation, it's worked. It's what's been given the ability to take down some of these wins from the top end of our teams.
XL, on the other hand, of course, made some drastic changes to their own roster in the middle of the season, bringing in Mikyx. It has worked out for them. They're now sitting 6-6, a 50% win rate, and they are looking to pick up their 7th win. Of course, over the last few years, it's been a bit of a meme, but Excel have never made playoffs in the LEC. They have constantly been, 6th, 7th, 8th place, always looking on the outside at those playoff spots. And this year, it feels like the momentum is slightly more in their favor, slightly more like they can take that 6th spot. But to do it, you have to be picking up wins against a team like Astralis.
30 seconds under Drake. Let's have a look at the vision control right now. Look at all these Astralis wards. This is heavily dominated towards their side of the Drake. Therefore, Excel, they're going to have to work for gaining some of this vision back themselves, but they do have an ace up their sleeve. They do have a little bit of a cheat. They have the Rift Herald that could just gain that instantaneous priority. Importantly
as well, it's only the 2nd dragon of the game. We are not on a fast soul clock in this matchup. Rift Herald does go down and charges in, but with it being 16 minutes, 2nd dragon, it's actually not that important for Excel to force a fight around this. However, with promisq being burst down, maybe they'll look for it. Zanzarah coming in from the side. Kobbe has built up the chakrams with that Moonlight Vigil. Zanzarah getting chased. Chakrams fallen off. No ults on Kobbe now. WhiteKnight forced away. He doesn't have smite for another 7 seconds or so, and Excel will start up the Drake. However, will Astralis take the fight?
This is going to be difficult. You're walking in through a choke point. Veigar loves this. If you're grouped around the baby cages, it might get difficult.
Realm Warp to try and get them onto the other side of the fight. promisq flashes in. The rest of the team was nowhere near. Not anywhere in the same zip code as promisq as he looked for an engage. But the Realm Warp had taken the rest of Astralis away. Excel take the kill, and they take the dragon to boot.
And once again, it is a difficult situation because Astralis composition, it's such a short range. You're forced to walk into a Veigar. You're forced to walk into the Gwen. The Zhao, they love that. They want it. The Jinx wants to kite back too. So you have to be super creative with these kinds of engages. And you can see Dajor, he tried to do that. They tried to come out from the top side of that river instead of the little choke point from the ramp. But promisq, he was just on a different page in that chapter and flashed in by his lone zone. Oh no, Dajor.
Yep, Nukeduck almost able to shut down Dajor. Everfrost phased rush will get to Dajor to safety, but you can see Nukeduck already doing quite a lot of burst there. Super Mega Death Rocket is a little bit wide. And Dajor will escape to fight another day. But we'll see this fight once again, because as you say, the Realm Warp is trying to relocate Astralis. promisq stays to look for this engage.
And the problem is, he's just a bit too far. Like, he gets a good hook onto Patrik. He actually finds the one carry you need to find, but his team is not in a position to follow up. And even if they are, there's a lot of good disengage from the side of Excel. Them in this group position makes it very difficult for Astralis to layer down their damage, especially when Kobbe has already used the Moonlight Vigil.
You said it in draft, Excel very strong when it comes to these team fights. Astralis needs to get a bit of an early lead, and they did do that for Kobbe. Individually, he is huge, level 11, or had a 2-level advantage over Patrik in that last fight. He's got Gale Force complete. He's been given, I think, 7 or 8 plates this game as well. He is sitting on a ton of gold. The issue is the rest of Astralis are struggling, and it doesn't get any easier for them for the rest of this game. They have to find picks. They have to find a way back into this match before it slips away from their grasp.
Interesting itemization as well coming in from Zanzarah. He's opted in for the Trinity Force, and then Mortius, I think that's just a no-brainer here. With the buffs that came in for the extra AD and you're against Gwen and a Veigar, just makes sense to get that. But having that Trinity Force does mean you need to find these squishy targets. They need to be the one you one-shot, because going up against the likes of Markoon, I'm actually not too sure if you win that brawl then.
Might be quite tricky for him to do. Omnivamp on that more if he does complete it from just the Hex Drinker. Can do a lot of work
Lifeline
for
passive is great.
Viego. Well, as you say, a Lifeline works very well for him, but it looks like Astralis just a little bit behind the clock on this play in the mid lane. They give up their tower. They have already taken Excel's mid-tier 1. For the moment, Excel a 2,000 gold lead. Looking very hungrily at that 7th win of Spring. Finn here forced away, gets into the bush, dodges away from the spell Flux and a possible follow-up Rune Prison there from Dajor.
The problem is Finn can't really step up here because he has no intel. His bot side jungle is just in complete vision control of Astralis, where Excel, they've allocated all their vision up towards the top side of the map instead. And now with red buff spawning in less than 1 minute, now with Excel getting out of the map again, they actually have opportunities to start some of these invades again if they would like to go for plays like this. Because Nukeduck is pushing in top, you can push in mid, but it seems like Excel, they want to try and get some of their own vision back in their bot side jungle to allow Finn to push further down.
All right, so minute 40 on the Ocean Drake. It would only be the 2nd of the game for either of these teams, but still definitely a soul you want to start stacking towards if you can. Ocean still does a huge amount of work when it comes to team fights and healing yourself back up through it. And it feels very much like XL are willing to wait this game out. Astralis are looking for something to happen, especially with Kobbe being in the position he is. You know, he's at 2 items. Patrik is at now just finished his second as well, so actually the power advantage that Astralis had for a moment there has been quelled by the rapid fire cannon finished on Patrik. You can see Astralis setting up around the Baron side of the map, trying to get some vision in here. Kobbe, that's not a good route to take by yourself. Markoon almost had an opportunity to jump in there, just didn't quite have the vision. Kobbe was separated from the rest of Astralis.
And we might just have to see Astralis try and cross-map when this next Drake spawns, because if you can catch XL with way too many members down towards the bot side of the map, maybe you can try and thread the tier 2 turret on the top side instead. Get that 600 gold for yourself. It's not going to suddenly mean you're going to be able to compete with the likes of XL, but it puts you in a position where you're still able to get gold on the map and you're not just going to be losing a fight.
There's always the possibility of trying to set up vision around Baron, let XL go to Dragon, and then you have an Aphelios. You get Crescendum on that Aphelios, you will melt through the Baron in this sort of situation alongside a Graves and a Viego. Of course, that is a very tricky play to enact. You have to set up your vision control perfectly. XL have to be unaware that it is happening. And with XL having that control ward in the Baron pit, it would be very hard for Astralis to find that opportunity. TP coming in from Nukeduck, 10 seconds on the Ocean Drake. From
the posturing of Astralis, it looks like they want to contest this, but once again, they're moving in blind to this Drake, moving in blind against a Thresh, against a Veigar. It rarely turns out great. So I'm curious to see how they're going to pilot this Drake contest, if that's even what they're looking for, because they can look to push down the mid lane instead as well, if XL is not contesting the mid wave.
One mid wave will go through, XL will catch the one bouncing back towards them. Finn secures the Ocean Dragon, only second of the game. Control ward in the pit. promisq now realizes that's been warded this entire time, so there was never a risk for XL of us taking this. promisq autos the Baron. Bit angry at that one, it seems. Mikyx in a good position here to hook. Just short of landing that hook onto promisq.
But I want to take it back again. Astralis, they're looking a little bit lost there, right? What's the plan of going down the mid lane? You're not looking to contest a Drake. You only play by pushing down the mid lane. Really only works if XL just gives up the priority. Mikyx, you're out of position here.
Yeah, it's a really bad position for Mikyx. promisq goes in, misses the hook. TP coming in as Astralis for the fight on the backline. Patrik forced to flash away. Heartbreaker from Zanzarah. Zanzarah just solos him on the back. Dajor came in with a Realm Warp as well to help out. He'll get snipped away, but it's a 1-for-1 trade so far. Patrik has fallen. Will Astralis pull the trigger on the Baron?
I don't think they can. They really don't have the damage to facilitate it just yet. And Astralis, they don't have too many engage options with the depth charge gone. You only have the hook really from promisq. So the turn option wasn't really there either.
You could see it was all on Zanzarah trying to kill off Patrik on that backline, but Patrik perhaps not even the greatest threat at the moment on XL. Finn is 2-1-2. Nash's Riftmaker complete. Nukeduck has a Rabadon's Death Cap second item. You see that really often on the Veigar because of his passive, giving him all that extra ability power.
Well, it's a high-risk, high-reward play from Mikyx, I gotta say, because you know you've swept yourself into a bush where they don't have the intel of you. If that hook connects onto Kobbe, well, he's got cleansed, so actually I take that statement back. It really doesn't do all too much, even if it does connect. But they do trade it 1-for-1, which is great. Astralis doesn't get too much out of it either. It's just an even trade, and what they really are looking for at this point in the game is they're looking for plays that puts them ahead, not just trading even.
XL still maintaining about that 1,700 to 2,000 gold lead and scaling all the way to the bank. Markoon with Black Cleaver second here. Seeing that a lot more after the Sterak's nerfs on 12.3 will help obviously Jinx's damage as well. You can get those stacks onto someone, you reduce their armor. And for the moment, XL still very happy scaling up. I'm just wondering, observers, if we can have a look at how many stacks Nukeduck has, because he must be well over the 200 mark right now, 226, 618 ability power with the Rabadon's buff coming in clutch there for him. He will just nuke someone. He will just absolutely burst them. 100-0 if they walk into that cage.
Well, I will say there is more tiers picked up from Zanzarah now. Kobbe is building towards it as well, now that he's picked up the Hexdrinker. So the magic resist is in their favor, but I gotta say, 600 AP, you're right. That is one extreme burst of damage coming into you. And I gotta say as well, one thing that Nukeduck has opted in for with Veigar is that you don't actually max your W secondary, you max your E as the secondary, because the stun on that baby cage just becomes so long and so frustrating to play against. Now, Astralis, they're trying to get mid lane priority, they're trying to gain control of the Baron once again, but it's going to be very difficult for them to just all of a sudden start up the Baron and then try and turn for it, because once again, there's going to be blue ops to fight out against. There's going to be the Gwen who's going to be immune. There's going to be Markoon who can disengage. There's a Dark Passage as well. There's a lot of tools for Excel to walk in and clear out the vision without having to worry about too much getting caught.
That is exactly what they will do. Let's see now how Astralis decide to navigate the next portion of the game. Even Shroud complete on promisq. Does increase the damage on any target that he immobilizes. Astralis, they have power in this composition. Ryze and Aphelios, if they are given time, can melt through someone. Zanzarah as well with Trinity Force More will do a lot of damage. The issue is, how are they ever going to get on top of the Excel lineup? How are they ever going to get in like punching range?
That's the thing, right? And even then, I gotta say, it's been a long time since I've seen a Ryze blow up a target go into tank build. Like, it takes a good amount of time. Like, it's good for extended fights because you do more damage than you take in some isolated instances. But quite often, what we see is that the rest of Ryze's team dies, he survives, and he's just left without being able to actually get that damage down. The real big tool in Ryze is that Realm Warp. It's about being creative, finding that front line, or back line rather, from the side of Excel. Because if you front to back against the team composition of Excel right here, Excel, they're gonna come out on top. They once again got the disengage with Markoon. They got the cage from Veigar. It's very difficult to walk into Excel and try and catch their carries. And even if you do catch Patrik, well, once again, Mikyx is going to be standing on top of him, either to disengage with a flay, put down the box, or be in range for the Dark Passage to immobilize Patrik to another place of the another position.
Obviously steps forward here, looking for the hook, lands onto Patrik, death shot's coming out as well, there's the Gravitum, and Patrik's dead, a superb hook from promisq. Finn though able to get one in response, they're chasing onto Mikyx. Kobbe dashing forward, Zanzarah going in as well, Mikyx with a good play, but he's going to get chased down. It's a double for WhiteKnight, and now the Ocean Dragon, their target, deciding against giving Excel soul point. They will take the Ocean Drake. And they actually have about 20 seconds here. They could turn towards the Baron as well.
You know, that one carry you need to find wins in these compositions, promisq finds it. Just like that, it looks like a little bit of an in-play initially, but the fact he finds Patrik with that hook sets up the rest of its team for a fight. Really makes Astralis remain competitive, and now they've started up the Baron, but Patrik, Mikyx, they're spawning in just a few seconds. I'm not too sure about this one.
You just can't do it when you've got Markoon and Nukeduck waiting just around the corner. Would be a lot of burst damage coming out from that. We're looking at this from promisq because the follow-up is actually absurdly fast from Astralis.
You know what I love from promisq sometimes? Oh, Mikyx, you could have blocked that, but you know what I love from promisq? He's so decisive in his plays. Even if he'll just flash in alone, this player genuinely believes that it's the best play he can go for in the moment, and I just absolutely love watching it every time from him.
What started out as a copy-pasta has now become more truthful than perhaps some people expected. Dajor here, though, caught out Markoon looking for Q3. Dajor's going to have to flash. Everfrost does get the root. Astralis lost control of their topside jungle. You can see WhiteKnight pushing out bottom wave that was pushed in towards him, and Excel actually have a beeline for an inner tower here. Astralis, once again, slow to react. Pings on their inhibitor tower, and pings in the mid lane as well. Even though they were able to win that fight, all they've done is equalize the Dragon score. They are still 1,900 gold behind. And as the game goes on, Excel are only going to scale even more.
Yeah, and, I mean, Kobbe is still on a shutdown. I wonder what his gold is, because look at his farm. 318, 29 into the game. Ooh. He's actually sitting at more gold than Patrik. Actually, he's got the most gold in the entire game on the losing side right now currently. That's very impressive numbers from the side of the Astralis AD carry.
But you can see Dajor and WhiteKnight are paying the price for it as well. Both of them 1,000 gold behind, at least in their respective matchups. Kobbe has been funneled gold, and this split on Astralis, he has not been able to prove that that gold has always been worth it. He has struggled in late game teamfights. He has often struggled in lane. However, the last couple of weeks have been a new breath of life for this team, and I want to see the Kobbe of old come back. I want to see the Kobbe
Flash coming over
that we saw carry games in the past. Hooks coming out, Mikyx rooted, but that is just a very dead promisq sent back to the depths is the Nautilus, and as you say, it was Hex Flash into Hook, but was more Hex Flash into Die. TP now coming in as Gwen wants to join this party. Kobbe not in the best of positions, has the flash, but the chase is on. Nukeduck coming out, he'll flash away. Puts down a turret to slow up Markoon. Dajor coming in from the side. Mikyx flash hook, it lands. Dajor had no flash from the initial play in the red side jungle, and because of that, he and Astralis will pay. Another kill to Excel, and they will now set up around the Baron.
Support dead, mid lane are dead. You're right, they should just be starting up this Baron right now. Zanzarah does not have the flash, but he does still have the ultimate to get in with a little dash. But hook from Mikyx could stop this. No, he smells it out. And while this Baron is getting lower and lower, Finn is going to try and stop them from going in.
Finn. He tries to push forward, doesn't have the Nukeduck, but he's actually just doing a lot of work in this 1v3. He almost takes out WhiteKnight. Calibrum not enough. Baron secured. Finn
just barely
as well. Great read of his limits there on the Gwen, was able to force 3 members of Astralis away.
But it once again just shows how hard of a time Astralis has against the frontliners like a Gwen, or even like a Viego, not Viego, Zhao when he finally goes in there. The fact they have these disengaging ultimates, the fact that you're so low range on the Astralis roster, and you have to face check these carries who love being low range against you, it's a really tough situation.
You can see Astralis continuing to try and make the plays, but Excel winning out so far. Now with Baron for the next 2.5 minutes, they're in a very strong position to continue their climb up the standings. Currently sitting at 6-6, as you can see, tied 5th with Vitality. If it ended today, both Excel and Vitality would make it into playoffs. Mad Lions would not. Of course, Astralis sitting at the bottom need a fairy tale story, a Cinderella story to make it into playoffs, but a win here and a turnaround in this game could be the start of such a tale. For the moment, though, they have to do something pretty special to get out of this one. There's the root.
He's dead. And
he's dead. As you say, he will fall. Nukeduck invests the ultimate, but it's just a free kill promisq button right now.
I'll be very honest right now. If Astralis turns this game around, then they for sure earn that title of a fairy tale run. In the mid lane right now, as you can see in the picture-in-picture, Zanzarah is currently proxy in the mid lane wave to deter them from pushing in that side, but still on the bottom end of the map, Finns has stacked up a wave. Baron still active for them. They can push this inhibitor turret, they can back off afterwards and go for soul point themselves if that's what they're looking for.
It's the difference between losing 2 inhibitor towers and 2 inhibitors and just 1 inhibitor tower and 1 inhibitor here. With that proxying of the wave is intelligent by Zanzarah. It looks a little strange to see your jungler and your mid laner on the other side of the map while an inhibitor is going down, but Astralis knew they couldn't take the fight at a numbers disadvantage anyway.
Now, Astralis, they could look to take down the mid lane turret themselves here, or they could try and contest for this Drake. I don't think they can contest it.
Zanzarah's going to try, dashes away with the Spectral Maw. Mid lane tower still survives. Nukeduck now with a Banshee's Veil. Makes it even easier for him to position in teamfights, because even if a hook does connect, he's going to be safe from that CC.
They get the mid lane turret, no local gold given over though, so Astralis, they're going to be trying and get some extra vision on the top side of Excel's jungle instead, because they need to find the pick somehow. Fog of War needs to be their friend. They need to catch a member of Excel off guard. Try and find a shutdown. A shutdown on the Veigar could be huge. Shutdown on Gwen could be huge. But they're so difficult to catch. Nukeduck sitting on a Banshee now as well. Finn, who's just going to become immune. And Excel, quite honestly, they're just walking group. They're walking in links, except Patrik right now. But even then, members are still close by. Like Mikyx here, ready for a Lantern. Kobbe, isolated in the mid lane, but he's not going to cross the threshold of his own mission.
Zanzarah forced away, only level 14 on the Viego. See Patrik out leveling, Kobbe already 16. Finn and Nukeduck got towards that level 17 mark. Nukeduck in a very strong position. 4 items on Veigar. Basically impossible to deal with him. Zanzarah stepping forward, hook going wide, Finn pushing in the mid lane. Dajor once again not quite with his team yet. Event Horizon's down, that's an opportunity for Astralis. And Excel realize it, they back away. Both waves were pushed in, but neither inhibitor tower did fall. Smart play from Dajor to push out that super minion wave in the bottom lane to make sure that they weren't getting anywhere near their Nexus towers.
Exactly, get as much pressure, or at least time on the map as you can. The longer it takes for that minion wave to collapse for Excel, the longer it's going to take for them to apply their pressure on the other side of the map. So Excel, they're going to reset, they're going to back off a little bit, they still have the timer in their favor. They can take it slow if that's what they want to. They can wait for the second Baron. They can wait for the Soul if that's what they're looking for. And if Excel picks up this Ocean Soul, I mean, Astralis is already having a rough time trying to find any good team fights. If you have to burst them down while they just get an insane amount of regeneration, it's completely lost then.
Especially when you see Finn now at 4 items, Nukeduck now at 977 ability power with a Void Staff alongside it. It's like that Force of Nature on Dajor is an okay itemization choice. You know, you're dealing with a lot of magic damage. You get the movement speed out of it. It can work, but double Void Staff's going to negate a lot of that MR. It becomes very tricky for Dajor to find any way to fight these battles. And yes, you can assassinate Patrik. Yes, you can dive onto the backline and take him out. Finn going forward here. Dajor trying to get away. Phase Rush. Everfrost gets the root. Finn back to full HP because, of course, he is. He's Gwen. Realm Warp will get both WhiteKnight and Dajor out of that fight.
But listen, that's the thing. They don't even win 1 versus 2 against like Gwen currently. And it's so difficult for Astralis. They've put themselves in this position with their draft as well. They had to make stuff work in the early game. If you can't do that, well, that's why we always say we want the ease of execution of these drafts, because it allows yourself to make mistakes in the scaling aspects. Once you fall behind with these short-range composition and you are reliant on the enemy team to make a mistake, the games become very difficult to pilot. Who would have known?
Unsurprisingly, a press R button composition is slightly easier than a composition like this to fully enact. I will say I feel like Astralis are lacking a little bit of grievous wounds, especially into a Gwen, into a Jinx, into even something like a Zhao who can heal up a lot with that Gore Drinker. They don't actually have it on anyone in terms of itemization, just that Ignite from promisq, their only ability to apply that healing reduction passive.
Could try and find a member here, but they don't have the full information. Mikyx and Patrik was actually a little bit isolated with Markoon and Finn not being near the perimeter.
Mikyx? Well, there was an option for a flash play there. Perhaps just didn't quite know where Zanzarah was. You can see WhiteKnight actually shadowing Dajor towards the bottom side. They're going to see if they can catch out Finn on this rotation. Now they've shown on the minion wave, Finn will go the safer route and won't take the fight. This will be a tier 2 tower falling in the bottom lane. Astralis have got something basically for nothing here. They did lose a little bit of pressure in the mid lane, and you can see Excel have total vision control over that top side of the map.
And here's the thing, 40 seconds for the Ocean Soul to spawn on the map. And yes, Astralis, they're currently getting a little bit of the map, but in the grand scheme of things, they're still 4K behind. They still are not in control of any of these waves. As soon as Finn goes down towards the bot side of the map, they're going to be pushing out the bot side. As soon as Excel is moving in towards the jungle here, they're going to be taking all the control for themselves, unless they're looking for a pick here instead.
Pick would make sense. A single hook really is a death sentence. It's aptly named here for Mikyx. If he lands it on anyone, they are pretty much dead. There's a couple of stopwatches. You can see Zanzarah, Dajor, and Kobbe investing in a timepiece apiece. But it's just impossible for them to do too much into this XL lineup. And now
Finn
once again can just solo out the Ocean Drake. Zanzarah's going to start it. Realm Warp coming in, but XL has sniffed this one. Like bloodhounds, they have found the scent of Astralis. Ocean Soul secured Astralis, tried something sneaky, but they weren't quite sneaky enough. And now Kobbe and promisq separated from the rest of their lineup. XL can let Finn go down towards the bottom side, push that in, then TP across. That inhibitor has respawned in the bottom lane, but Finn will very happily lap that up in a couple of moments' time if he is left to his own devices.
And we've seen XL throw leads before, but throwing a game like this would be nothing short of impressive. I think there is a lot of pressure under the weight on Astralis right now, and they need to commit to some sort of just insane Hail Mary play soon, because the game, it already feels like it's out of their hand. And yes, they have a decent carry in the backline with Kobbe, who's literally sitting on top of 400 CS right now. But it just doesn't matter. He's not in a position to front to back as an Aphelios right now. And that just means your best win condition from Astralis right now is not even your win condition moving into Excel's composition. It's so difficult. promisq can try and look for that Hail Mary now, and he has found Patrik in the past.
Markoon, the front line. Nukeduck coming in, the TP there. Event Horizon just short. Dajor flashes, looking for the kill onto Nukeduck. Dajor very tanky, Moonlight Vigil. Nukeduck pops a stopwatch. Dajor has one of his own. Gwen coming in from the top side. Spin looks to kill off Zanzarah. Kobbe dives forward. Mikyx plays him away. The cleanse away from Kobbe as he tries to survive on the back line, but Zanzarah's already down. And Kobbe, even through the GA. Your guardian angel isn't looking down on you happily today. Shut down is Kobbe. Shut down of Astralis. And any hopes they had of maybe making it to playoffs playoffs seem to dissipate like, I mean, like nothing. There's nothing left for them. It dissipates like absolutely nothing. Excel very happily take their 7th win of spring. With it one step closer to playoffs for the first time in the team's history. And Astralis fall by the wayside as Excel secure the win.
It was a valiant effort in that last team fight. They all pressed forward. They tried to get the play down, but that game was already over. Excel was in clean, pure control of it. They started the Drake stacking in their favor for themselves. Ocean Soul picked up. I mean, it's just not a good way to fight it. And there was good signs of light. You know, the first wave from Dajor, the dive on top side, I mean, that was the best we saw from Astralis, where it's like, okay, fundamentals in check.
Sure.
But then Excel finds them overstepping. They punish immediately and take the ball back on their court and control the game from that point on onwards.
Great stuff all around by Excel. Played the early game, matched fight for fight, and then were able in the end just to outscale, play their team competition properly, and force Astralis into a few bad decisions as that matchup went on. They now move on to 7-6, a couple more wins than they are in that position where playoffs is almost a certainty. 9 wins is usually where we sit for that playoff bracket. Key player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Markoon, Nukeduck, and Mikyx are your options. All 3 of them members of Excel.
Oh yeah, and I feel like you could have pretty much picked anyone from this side of Excel in this game, because this very much, it was a team effort. It was Excel who was just playing towards their composition. The Veigar pick once again coming in clutch from Nukeduck. I gotta say, he's been finding some finicky picks. He had the Sona, did not work, and we do not want to see it again. But it was definitely still very nice to see these comfort picks come out, who kind of shows what they can do with their compositions.
Yep, definitely agree with you there, Guldborg. Excel get their 7th win of the season on the board and take another step towards their first ever playoffs. After the break, Ashley will be joined on stage by Mikyx to talk about their road to a top 6 finish.